Right, I'm going to attempt to put this axle in, and what I'm doing, I'm just pulling them plates apart. When I levelled it all up, I've got an axle stand under this part of the and I'll just put some spacers in it to level it up, which I'll just stick to one side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a thicker spacer in so that these are sitting slightly uphill, and when I lift the axle onto this bit, it'll actually want to roll to the back of the plates rather than roll back out onto me, because that would be annoying. So if I use that spacer now, this axle's fucking heavy. But we shall persevere. Just want to get it in such a way that I'm not gonna obviously it's nowhere near being central or anything like that at the minute. That'll come with in fact it's fucking miles off. Make sure them things are top and bottom. Yeah, what I'm just doing at the minute is, I know you can't see it, I'm just trying to eye the pulley in here, just trying to eye it through into the pulley in there, and because I can't see properly, I'll have to put this in there. I just want to make sure that the actual, because looking at that, I haven't got a lot of, that's too sort of, no, it wouldn't be too bad at that. But what you've got to be careful of, which is something that I'll do in a minute, I'm just trying to sort of nearly set it up, for lack of a better way of putting it, just so it's nearly lined up with the pulleys. Then I'll get all these plates bolted together, and remember, because it's not welded yet, I can still bump the axle side to side to do proper alignment, but I need to be taking measurements, you know, so that it's sitting equally at each side as well, and but still stays. That's one good thing about the belt on this bike, because when it was converted, obviously I didn't convert the bike originally to the big wide back wheel, but whoever did it, they put the narrow belt on. Well, with the belt being very narrow, you've got a lot of extra side to side movement to centralise this belt drive up on the diff. Yeah, a lot more sort of movement than what you'd have with a standard wide belt. So, let me get some of these things in here. Because what I need to do is lift the axle. Fucking no way to get out of the bastard. I need to lift it and squeeze, that's it, squeeze the plates together so that I can then wind the bolts in, which will then keep it together, which means it's then mounted on the bits that stick out, rather than like on this side at the minute, the opposite side to that one, the axle tube is sat on the bottom bar. So I'll do the same again on this side, just lift it and get them pulled together. This side's very close to the block as well. Which tells me that that's going to want to come across this way. But I'll nip some fucking Allen key in it. You go. There it is. I'll just nip these bolts up. I know this makes for boring viewing, but one thing I will say, I have worked on a few trikes over the years, but I've never built one from scratch. So for me, this is a first. The principles are the same. The mechanical sort of engineering side of it. All it means is you've got fucking 2 back wheels instead of 1. Basically everything just bolts together. It's just a case of making sure everything's sort of square and in line, and it's exactly the same as if if you were putting a new sort of type of swing arm in the back of a custom bike and a big wider wheel, for instance. You just space everything out, make sure everything's in line and stuff. So mechanically wise, it's all the principles of it's all the same. As I say, I've worked on a few, just done like services and changed some brake calipers on one once on the back, because apparently they weren't that good, the ones that were on. But as in building them, no, this is a first for me. Right, I can get that. I need to be able to. One rule. Put that up against the top edge of that pulley. Pull the front belt off a bit. Right, so it's sitting up against that. Oh, it's putting plenty there. Oh, shockers as well. I thought about my shocks, and I thought, oh, I need to get some of them. You can buy different ends that go on your shocks, so you've got adjustment. I mean, you have got a slight bit of adjustment on your shocks anyways, height wise, but you can buy these kits that bolt onto the end of your shock and give you a lot more range of adjustment. So I was having a look on to like price a setup, and in the end I got bored with looking, so I've actually just bought a new set of shocks with the adjusters already on and everything, progressive springs. But because I said I would strip these the standard shocks down, I will still do that. Reason being, I want to clean them up anyways, because now I'm not going to use them. I'll clean them up inside and out to make them look good, make sure that they're okay, and then probably sell them. So I will make a video of the shocks being stripped, so that anyone who's interested in how the shocks come apart, etc., I will do the video of it. One thing as well, when the axle first turned up, I'm just going to talk bollocks to you at the minute. Well, not bollocks, but I'm just going to talk to you because while I'm tightening bolts up, it gets boring for you watching. Yeah, when the axle first turned up and it was in its metal frame, I actually thought to myself, fucking hell, that's a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. And I've just took it out. Today is the first time that this axle has been out of its delivery frame. And once I've got it onto the back of this bike, it now looks really fucking small. And once I've got these nipped up, I'll pull it off the tripod and let you have a look at this from the back. These are all pulling up. Knob head, wrong end. Right, so what I need to do now is make sure I can still fucking turn this thing. Take that out there. Right, because I can still, as you can see, that's just moving. Because I can still do that, it means that I can still move it side to side. So I'm just going to check that I've got it somewhere near that way. I might just tap them in, just using my nylon hammer. I might just tap it right in, if I can. Moving a little bit. Right, so that's 17 mil. And that's fucking 16, so it was probably fucking right before I hit it with that one. I'll just give this side a tap. Right, so that's equal, as in backwards and forwards, it's equal on each side. So I need a smaller scale, which I'll get just now so I can measure from the block. I might measure to the back of the hub actually. Now then, I thought I had a ruler kicking about just close by, obviously didn't. That's very annoying, it won't fit. Right, so I'll just get some basic measurement with the old tape measure. Right, if I turn that, I can get in between. That's a handy measurement. Off the back of the hub to the edge of that block is 150. Now this isn't, don't think I'm setting this up accurately at the minute, I'm fucking not. It's a long way off being accurate. I'm just wanting to get it so it's somewhere near central. Have I ever read that tape wrong, or this is fucking miles out? No, it was definitely 150. So, wants to move across 12 mil. So, give it a... Oh, fuck me, that moved very easily. So that was 150 originally, and I said it wants to move 12 mil. So that's 138, and that's 138. So, now that I've done that, I can put this in and just see. I've got loads of fucking belt to fuck off out of the way. Right, as it is at the minute, I'm going to lift you off the camera and show you this. Just turn that up a bit so it doesn't get in the way. Take the grooves off. I'll grab my fag. Right, as you can see there, that's sort of like the axle. It's not 100% accurate at the minute, it's not tightened up properly or anything, it's just more what I was trying to do. That is sitting centrally at the minute, so your distance where I was measuring from was off the back of the hub in there to the edge of this block. Now I know I haven't tightened these blocks up properly yet, and I measured from the same there in there to the edge of the block. What I was trying to do, there's the pulley. Now this isn't going to be on straight, but there's the sprocket in there, and that's what I was trying to do, is to make sure that I had that sort of somewhere, not so much centrally, but if I just pull that belt down, see what I mean by the really narrow belt? The belt's only 20 mil wide, and that pulley I think is about 35. Where's my tape measure? No, the pulley's 30mm wide, and as you can see, the sprocket's quite wide anyway. As you can see where it was the clean and the dirty bit, that's where the belt was actually running with the big wide back tyre on. So I know that my belt will go across and run in line. So now it's just a case of, well, actually, while I've got you down here, I can show you what the score is. Yeah, as you can see in there is 4 bolts, Allen head bolts, one right in the back there. Same on that side. Yeah, so you get, once you've got everything lined up, once I've got this, that's what I was wanting to show you, these bolts here that go around the diff, they hold the diff together. So you split it down this line here, it pulls apart, you can get your belt onto the pulley, then you put it back together. Once I've got to that stage, that's then when I'll start doing proper lining up, making sure the belt's running straight, making sure these are equally spaced so that it's all sitting centrally, etc, etc. Now there'll be some more checks that I'll do. Where the fuck's my tape gone? Yeah. As you know, when I measured up the swing arm to find out that it was all central, what I'll probably do is take a measurement off the disc, for instance, which up against the edge of the disc, to the edge of that plate, which at the minute is like 109.5 millimeters. So I'll check the same again there. And as you can see, I hope you can see, I can't even see the screen properly, but that's 109.5. So it shows that measuring from the block is the same as measuring from the edge of these plates. And everything as it sort of should be. That's weird, isn't it? You can turn that, but the fucking... Oh, no, it's working now. And you can tell it's not an LSD, as in limited slip diff, that you can get on some of them. Because I'm going to turn the wheel, the disc that way. But if you look at the other side while I'm doing it, it's going the opposite way. Now if that had been a LSD, both wheels would turn the same way. Right, let's put you back up on here. So yeah, so far things are not going too bad. Loosen that off a bit. Yeah, things are not going too bad. It's looking as if things are going to line up properly. And what I was on about earlier, by the way, about when I was saying that DNA must use the same diff, axle sort of thing, and maybe put different size pulleys in for different bikes, I don't know. But if this was being fitted to a Sportster, the whole axle assembly would be, imagine getting hold of it there and just spinning it right over so that came over the top. You'd have your your calipers on the top, but the diff part would be over on the right hand side of the bike, that'd be perfect for a Sportster. So I think these things come set the standard to fit Sportsters. I'm just wondering what I should do next. One thing I want to look at, that's going to hit the diff there, and that's. I'll take you off here again, just show you this. This is the belt adjuster sort of thing. That would wind in, as you can see, it's coming through there. Because there won't, I don't think there's going to be that much gap.
You know, you said you wanted a new toilet brush.
I'll come back. Right, a bit disturbed then, girlfriend came out. I can't remember where I got to what I was saying, but basically there won't be a gap like that when this thing goes together. That'll be a lot closer to this plate, so that adjuster won't be screwing out. But what I was just looking at before is, if I look straight down, if you look at the line that the adjuster's coming out, it's going to hit just here, and if I get up, it's going to be exactly the same on that side. The adjuster's going to come and it's going to hit on here, so that's good. Right, so I'm going to have a bit of a mess about. I'll do it off camera because it's going to be boring for you to watch. All I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten all these bolts up properly so that they're tight. Then what I'll have to do is unbolt these again, drop the axle off, split the axle in half. Once I've got to the point where I'm going to split the axle in half, I'll bring you back obviously and show you what the crack is. But yeah, I'm going to tighten these blocks up properly on each side, and then I'll unbolt the axle from the swing arm, drop it down onto me mat, and then I'll start splitting it in half. So that's when I'll come back. This is also when I'll find out whether or not my belt's going to be long enough. As you can see there, it's a proper. This is a genuine Harley belt as well. A lot of the newer Harleys run narrower belts on the back, but the belts will fit on the older bikes. So, right, I'll knock you off for now. I'll come back when I'm ready to split this diff in half. What I might even do is I might push that up close. So, but yeah, I'll come back when I'm ready to split this diff in half, and you can see what the crack is and that. Right, back soon. Right, I know I said I was going to be adjusting this and blah blah, but then it just got to thinking about clearance on the wheels I'd bought. So I've just quickly sort of fitted up the wheels. Obviously I haven't got the tyres on yet, just to make sure I was got clearance on everything, and then it wasn't going to snag anywhere near the swing arm, etc. The wheels I've got, by the way, are move because I can't see now. The Krieger smooth, chrome smooth wheels. 10mm15s, and they come with like a chrome centre cap that goes in, so that it's just a complete chrome wheel. There's the other one, still in its packet. And basically gives you a bit of an idea of the overall width of the thing. Looks a bit jai-wog at the minute, it's just the way I'm holding the camera. But yeah, so now I know that there's no issues with the wheels. So I'll now knock you off again and do what I said I was going to do originally and get this all thinged up. Right, so I'll knock you off again, I'll be back soon. Right. What I've done is supporting the swing arm here with a axle stand, and I've also put solidly underneath this side of the axle another axle stand, but it's actually under the axle stand. So the axle on this side is supported because it's bolted to the swing arm. Swing arm supported by that axle stand. Then it towards the centre of the axle is another axle stand. I've undone the bolts right round apart from one here, and I've took 3 mounting bolts out of this. So what I've got left to do is just take this last bolt out. There's just a big pile of them that hold the half together. And now, if I support this plate here, that's handy, I don't need the spanner. If I support this here and take this nut out, bolt out, and what I should be able to do is just split get that one there so it's nice and safe. I'll show you this lot in a minute. I'm just going to get it so it's secure. I'm not going to. But as you can see there, that's now dropped slightly, which enables me, hopefully, to get the belt on in there. Oh, look at that. That's fucking awesome. Well, it isn't at the minute because the fucking belt's just come off. But that's allowed the belt to go on, so the belt's now around the pulley, and what problem you've got with this, it's not a problem, but if you're not 100% what you do, I mean, that to me it's no different to splitting a car diff, apart from you don't split the axle in half. But if you're not 100% sure what you're doing, you can be a bit screwed with this because there's no fucking instructions come with it at all. Not even a, oh, put axle on back of fucking swing arm. You know, it doesn't even tell you to do that. I know that's common sense. But, no. But what we have got there now is that whole lot obviously lifts out. That's rather interesting. Right, I'm going to lift you off this fucking tripod and I'm going to bring you down so you can have a bit of a look at this. Turn the screen round so I can see. Right, so what you've got, belt round pulley, just me fucking alter this zoom a bit. Bearing, which is what the grease nipple on there's for. That grease is that bearing. Then you've got one there that'll do a similar thing on a bearing on the other side. And then on here, I'll tell you what, I'll set this up on its end. What you've got here is a spline shaft, the bearing race, outer race in there. Obviously that's the half of the, what do you call it, the diff housing. Yeah, and that spline shaft, let me torch go here. Oh, bugger, battery's gone flat. I'm sure I've got another one here. That's handy. Yeah, as you can see in there, that's splined. So the shaft off the other half's got to line up with them splines in there, and then goes onto bearing, etc. And basically you just end up bolting it all back together, and then once you've got it all bolted up, mounted back to that, pull your tensioners through on this bit here, which will tension the belt up. So what I'll do is I'll knock you off a minute, put you back on the tripod, and then I'll switch you back on, and we'll get this thing put back together, that half put in, should I say. We'll go from there. Right, back soon. Right, this might be a little bit awkward, but I'm going to put the axle back together. Get it all the right way. Right, get the nut back in this plate. Hope you can see what I've just done there. I've probably just blocked your view. But basically, I've pushed, pushed the two halves back together, but I had to rotate it to get, because obviously you need the openings where they're meant to be. Put the nut in there, and what I'll start doing is put the bolt back in there. Why I keep calling them nuts, I do not know. But I'll start putting these back in. So I've just got to rotate it until they line up, which is easier said than done. That's it. Just leave them loose. And what I can do is if I push the whole axle across again. The good thing about it, oh you fucking knob, I can't do that, can I? Not now the belt's on. Oh well, just go in and start feeding all your bolts in that hold the two halves together. I can turn it so far, actually. Axle stand's stopping us getting this one in, so that's why I've turned it. Might as well get all them in. Got one in there. Yeah, so just get all the bolts put back in, and nipped up. I'm not tightening them up yet till I put them all in. Bring that back round a bit. Bring it this so it's somewhere near lined up. And there's, so what we've got is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 10 bolts altogether, hold the two halves together, but you've got 7 that come all the way around the back. Then obviously you've got a big gap here where the belt goes, and a big gap at the bottom where the belt goes, but in between the two gaps there's another 3 bolts. So there's, as I say, there's 10 altogether. And another thing before, these are just nipped up finger tight, just to sort of pull the two halves slightly together. I mean, it was sitting together anyways, but I haven't put any pressure on to tighten them up properly, because before I do that I'm just going to rotate it. All seems free enough. So now put a large extra bit of, not massive amounts, just a little bit extra nip on them. And I'll have to figure out a torque setting for these, because as I say, they don't, you get all the axle and the swing arm and everything, and there's absolutely no instructions at all with the kit. You know, doesn't tell you how to take this apart, doesn't tell you that you've got to put a decent amount of grease in these, because they've got a little bit of grease in, but not massive amounts. Yeah, it doesn't basically tell you anything, so you haven't got any torque settings for the bolts, any torque settings for them, but off the top of my head I just can't remember what they are, but I've got my book, and it has all the different size nuts and bolts and etc, and sort of the max torque settings that you can put on each sort of size bolt, because obviously, as an example, an M10 bolt, say, is going to be a lot higher torque figure than what you'd have on an M5 or an M6. So, and they're all about right. Right, so we're just going to put these 4 back in. Now these should, I need to just lift it slightly. Come on, your ass. For some reason that one isn't securing. I don't know what I've done with the spanner. Just do it all back out. might have to do is just jack the axle. Because what we've got here as well is it's all moved again. That's better. No, I haven't actually lifted that. I thought I was going to have to lift it, and I was thinking, well, no, it should be straight because they're tight enough. It was the fact that it was sitting back, like leaning back towards us. That's why the thread wouldn't go in properly. So that should, by rights, allow me to put that one in, which it does. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'll knock you off for a minute. I'm going to tighten all this up, measure this to centralise it again, and then I'm going to put the jacking bolts in, and I'm just going to jack the axle out. I'll come back, obviously, before I do that. That's when I'll start filming it again. I'm going to jack the axle to get the tension on the belt. When I'm ready to do that, I'll come back. Move along. Right, I got this plate lined up properly with the edge of the swing arm like I did when I first set it up. Tightened all the bolts up. Loosened the bolts that hold the clamps. Got the screwdriver and just forced. Well, I say forced, just levered the axle back just to take up some slack in the belt, and then I noticed a thing which I'm going to show you right now. Right, if I wind this adjuster in, now that's tight up. There's a fair old gap there before it, so basically what I'm going to have to do is get some longer bolts. Even if I took that nut off, it's still not going to make up enough space to push, because the tension's not far away. It's not tight, so I just need the extra length just so I can push that back, and it's nowhere near the end of the whatchamacallits. And if you look at some of these DNA trikes that are online, pictures of them and that, you can see that there's gaps like that. It's just I haven't got the adjustment length in the bolt. So I'm going to knock you off for now and get some longer bolts, and then I'll come back. Right, catch you later.